You would have to be a shapeshifter for some of these men to love.
Only addicts treat loneliness with isolation.
If he really loved me, he wouldn't have done that.
This is not about whether or not you satisfy him. This is about whether or not he will be satisfied.
Welcome to The Couple Cure. Here's Jay and Lori Pyatt.
A common feeling out there among betrayed wives is if he really loved me, he wouldn't have done that. That's one of the 9 things we're going to be covering on this video today, where I'm going to be asking Jay, what things do you wish wives knew about their husband's addiction and lies? So the first question is, if wives think if he really loved me, he wouldn't have done this, what do you wish she knew instead?
The truth is, he doesn't love himself and probably doesn't really know what love is at a deep level to know how to love well. He has for so long used as a way to feel better when things don't feel right to him. So it's not about you. It's not about his feelings toward you other than he doesn't know how to communicate certain things, including, I do love you, but what I love more or what I'm more connected to is my own sense of distress or misunderstanding. In that distress that he's feeling, that inability to communicate what he needs or his emotional world, he begins to act out more. He continues to return to what makes him feel better, not because he doesn't love you, but because he does not know how to manage his own internal conversations in a healthy way.
You said he doesn't know how to love well. I would say that would apply not just to you, it might apply to your kids. It would probably even apply to the women he pursues in whatever way that looks like in your life. Mm-hmm. So it's not just you. It's not because there's something lacking in you. You might have heard me say it before. You would have to be a shapeshifter for some of these men to love because they're so committed to the things that look a certain way or act a certain way. Right. What I would add to that is I've heard some people say, like, yeah, he loves you like a 14-year-old loves pizza. I don't know that that's always the case. I think for some guys, maybe it is. I would agree with Jay. He probably has loved you to the best of his ability. It's just he loves something else more. The next thing I would say is he might love you as far as like, well, you make life easier for me. The thing is, he doesn't understand you could make the rebuilding of trust a lot easier for him too. Second question for you, is there something the wives do, like asking about how his recovery is going or checking behaviors that can help the situation or the addict?
I personally think that a way to approach it is, you said you wanted to get better at this. What would it feel like for me to support you? How can I support you in that? You know, I want you to have the resources you need to get to those goals. So how's that going for you? How, do you feel like you have the support you need right now?
Mm-hmm. I would say if he says nothing, I need nothing from you, really examine to see if the things he's doing are the same things he was doing before the last big D-Day. Right. Because if the things he was doing led to a D-Day, he was still acting out, it might need something else more. So if I were in that situation where I had said that to Jay, I would have said, okay, I'm going to believe you. Mm-hmm. I'm going to test that theory as well. And if that theory is not correct, we're going to do something different because this affects my life too, and I matter too here. In addition to that, I think it's situational. There are some women who would love to hear on a regular basis, hey, how's your recovery? Like, what are you learning? There are some women who don't want to have anything to do with their husbands at this point, so it doesn't matter where they are in their recovery. For some women, they do not want to have any checking behaviors. They want him to have a solid accountability partner that's going to hold him to his word and hold him to going for his goals. And some women do feel safer when they check up. In fact, in the betrayal trauma training that I went to, they said checking behaviors are reality testing. After you've been lied to so many times, there's a place, a legitimate place for testing the reality that he's purporting that exists. But again, go at your speed. And with the checking behavior, you really need to make sure you're ready to see some things that might be very, very upsetting, because that can be traumatizing as well. And you need to be careful of it not becoming an obsession, all right? But I trust you, ladies, to know when it crosses that line. Number 3, what do you wish more women knew about how habitual use warps a man's thinking or beliefs?
The very subtle belief that if I don't act out, if I don't have physical intimacy on a regular basis, I'm going to feel like I'm dying, or I'm going to feel like this whole relationship is meaningless, because that piece of it is so much of what we've kind of driven ourselves to glorify, to, to be the thing that says, yes, our relationship is working. And when it doesn't happen, his mind will typically go to some form of rejection, some form of being not enough. The other element is that nothing else is going to work.
Like nothing else will satisfy kind of a thing.
It is very much, I have an emotion, I need to deal with it this way. And so for them to experience an emotion, and because it's new territory, one of the ways in which many guys react is anger. They don't like feeling vulnerable. They don't like feeling whatever this emotion is. And so the powerful emotion is the anger.
Mm-hmm. Okay, number 4. What do you wish more women knew about how habitual use warps a man's behavior?
I was in a conversation with my mentor, and he was talking about a meeting he was in where someone else in that meeting said, only addicts would treat loneliness with isolation.
Oh.
I feel lonely, I feel some emotion, so I'm going to isolate. The isolation is a way of, I feel vulnerable and I'm going to get away from anybody that might notice my vulnerability. I know for me, that was being bullied in grade school and junior high and some of those things. Having my emotions out in front of people was not safe to me. Another behavior is they'll do something that they think is going to help them, and all it is doing is distracting them, and they haven't done anything to fix it. So if they begin to pick up another behavior, another thing that they get connected to, video games, food, TV, the goal is for him to re-engage well. And if he comes back more numb or tuned out or not settled, then he's engaging in just another behavior that's delaying things.
What I heard Jay say was only addicts treat loneliness with isolation. And then Jay said, they don't want to let anybody see their vulnerability. I would say some of them don't want anyone to see the fact that they're planning on using again.
Right.
The way our marriage counselor put it was, Jay needs some refreshing time, but it needs to be refreshing. It couldn't be where he just got frustrated by gaming. Another thing he was frustrated about life about. If a wife thinks he's stopped using so he's better, what would you want her to watch for instead?
One of the things I would want you to watch for is how he deals with life when he doesn't get his way. Expectations are a very dangerous thing for addicts to live with. So one of the things I have guys check in on in my groups is how are they doing with their expectations. I wasn't even clear that I had expectations, but when they didn't get met, I got angry about it. I got frustrated. I made some passive-aggressive remark to let her know that I had this expectation that she didn't meet. That expectation may look like, man, he gets so frustrated at the coffee shop or waiting in line or in traffic or at church, or he starts yelling at the TV over something that people are doing that they shouldn't be doing. That judgmentalism is part of that expectation. So I would say watch for those type of things.
You're looking for him to act in progressively better and healthier ways. It might take a while, but you want to see him self-regulate. You want to see self-control, basically. Right. It's one of the key signs of true change. I would also say definitely look for mistreatment. I know Jay got clean a lot earlier than we started dealing with the mistreatment. A easy way to see this, if he treats you well, is how does he treat the underlings that he comes across in life? The checkout people at the grocery store, wait staff, people he might think serve maybe in lower jobs than he would ever deign to work at.
Tech support people. If they're on the phone and they're talking to tech support people or somebody along those lines, that might be an indicator.
That was one of the last indicators. So those are the things that I would add.
Whenever you try to make a change in life, life is going to push back. For the addict, consistency is a big part of rebuilding trust. And so he needs to do this consistently for a long period of time. And sometimes they forget. So that's why they need to keep going to meetings. That's why they need to keep having conversations, is that tendency to go back to what is easy and not what is healthy.
The way we put it is you might see old him again, but you should see that less frequently and for shorter periods of time. Number 6, what is something addicts interpret incorrectly, and why do wives need to know it?
They're going to misinterpret your pain as being attacked, as rubbing their nose in it. They're going to misinterpret boundaries as far as you're wanting to hold a boundary. Hey, you committed to doing this thing, and how they're going to misinterpret it as you're being the police. They're going to misinterpret you wanting to stay safe or you keeping distance as rejection and not a thing where you need space to heal. If she had a broken leg that you caused by a skiing incident or something, and she said, look, I need space in the bed. I need you to go sleep on the couch. You wouldn't see it as rejection. You'd see it as, oh yeah, she needs this or that. Same idea, just a little bit different way of experiencing the pain.
What I would add to that is what I think addicts interpret incorrectly is if she's smiling, if she's getting on with life, if she's still functioning well, that must mean that she's fine, that it didn't really hurt, that everything's back to normal. It is not.
Right.
She's just really strong. Number 7, what would you say if she chooses the marriage over her own health?
Don't do it. Staying in relationship with someone, especially if they're not changing. We talk about the lifeguard principle. They're going to try to save someone who is drowning, but the lifeguard's primary role is to make sure that they get back safely. None of my lifeguard training said that's what we expect you to do, is die while trying to save somebody else. By the same token, if someone is going to continue in their addictive behavior, they will take you down with them. The consequence of you leaving may be the only way that he actually gets that he needs to change.
Jay's not saying leave him, divorce him ASAP. He's not saying kick him out, especially if you can't do that.
Right.
I think what he's saying is do what you can to get space. A lot of our clients at first do in-house separations if they haven't already done so. I would say you're allowed to go at your own pace. If you can't put certain boundaries in place, it just means you're not ready to yet.
Mm-hmm.
And also know your limits. So if choosing the relationship isn't leading to what you hoped it would, consider putting yourself first, because you matter too. Number 8, what do men tell themselves about their wives to excuse their own actions, and how are those things false?
It's not because you have a higher physical intimacy drive than she does. She doesn't feel safe around you. And so your justification of, well, she didn't want to do this or that, well, she doesn't have to. She doesn't have to want to do those things. The conversation you need to have is, why do you feel like that's the only way it's going to work for you?
Mm-hmm.
Because when you say, well, it's because she wouldn't do this, we're right back to the addict in you saying, I can only get this my way, versus let's work on something that works for both of us. The other justification I think that some guys get into is just, it's no big deal. The reality is they are allowing another person to be their source of physical satisfaction.
And it goes against the vow that most people take at the altar when they get married, which is, I vow to forsake all others.
It's simply because you ask him not to. That makes it a violation. That makes it a thing where, hey, I ask you not to do this, you're doing it, that hurts me. I can be upset about that.
Number 9, when wives take the betrayal personally, thinking it's because they're not good enough, what's the truth you wish they could hold on to instead?
It is not because you cannot satisfy him. It is because he will not be satisfied. Jesus and the woman at the well, where Jesus says, the water the world gives, you will be thirsty again. That was not because the world only gives bad water, but because it's worldly water. The water that Jesus gives is the thing that's going to finally satisfy us. He thinks, like many addicts do, if they just get the right amount of heroin, or they get the right amount of alcohol, or they get the right amount of physical intimacy, my life will be perfect. That's a lie. He's bought into that lie, and he continues to try to go down that path. So this is not about whether or not you satisfy him. This is about whether or not he will be satisfied. Will he allow life and God and you to play a role in his satisfaction? But he's got to choose that I'm going to be satisfied. And that's not on you.
I like that. Okay, viewer questions. Number 1, for the wives, what key things have you learned that really have propelled your own healing? You know, maybe you thought something about your husband's pursuing other women, and you thought it was one thing, and then you learned something about either him or yourself or the addicted mindset that really propelled you further in your own healing. For addicts, what do you wish your wife or ex-wife had known about your usage, your mindset, your behavior, that sort of thing? Well, thank you guys for joining us this season. I do think it's been one of our better ones. Do come back for our next video where we're going to be releasing something new and also telling you guys what direction we're going in. I know Jay's really excited about it. I'm so excited about it that we're going to turn this recording off and we're going to go right into it. All right. So we'll see you over there.
Bye.